What's up, Bucs fans? It's Creamsicle Week. Bucs are back in action after going off their bye week last week. They play the Detroit Lions in Tampa this week. Game got flexed from a 1 o'clock to a 4:15 start. So a lot of excitement around the nation about this Bucs team, about this Detroit Lions team. Two teams that have really surprised and put themselves in a good position to win. We had Joe Tryon-Shank on our earlier episode this week. Was super excited to have him on. A lot of good information from him. Learned a lot about him as a player and some things that he likes to do off the field. So that was fun. If you missed that episode, make sure to go back and check it out. But today we have a very special guest. We'll be talking to Detroit Lions former free safety, All-Pro, Pro Bowl, Glover Quin. He'll be breaking down the Detroit Lions behind enemy lines on that segment. We'll jump into it here. We'll come right back.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Welcome back to the show. Like I said, it's Creamsicle Week, so I've got my Creamsicle on. It's going to be a fun matchup. This is kind of a litmus test for the Buccaneers. You know, they had an earlier matchup against the Eagles, which was a very tough opponent. You know, they're coming off winning the NFC Championship and one of the top teams in the NFC as a whole. This Detroit Lions team has really kind of they've had high expectations put on this season. They went into the draft, made a lot of good moves. Same thing in free agency. So there's a lot of expectations on this Detroit Lions team, but I wouldn't put them in the same class yet as a team like the Eagles or the 49ers. So this will be a good test for the Buccaneers. On the other side, the Lions haven't really been tested by a team. They played the Chiefs on opening night, but that game is such a wash because both of those teams are obviously coming into the season a little bit rusty. There's kinks to work out. Huge win by them to open up the season. So far, they've got 4 wins. Their only loss coming against the Seattle Seahawks in overtime, which was a good test for them, and I think matches up kind of where the Bucs are. So it's going to be interesting. We'll break all that down. We're going to bring our guest in, former free safety for the Detroit Lions, Pro Bowl, All-Pro, Glover Quin. Bring him in. Excited to get into this matchup. And Glover, how are we doing today?
Man, we're doing good, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on here. I just want to ask you, first and foremost, this Lions team has kind of – it feels like it's America's darling. You know, everyone's rooting for them. What's different about this Lions team than what people are used to in the past?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, last year when they got a chance to do the Hard Knocks, you know, most football fans watch Hard Knocks, whether that's your team on it or not. You kind of watch it. And so once you get to know people's stories and get to see the back stories of a lot of teams and people, sometimes you can kind of like start to root for them a little bit. And the Lions have been underdogs for so long. And so when you finally get, you know, a chance to say, you know what, these guys are a little different. I kind of like them. I like the quarterback, or I like the coach, or, you know, they work hard, or whatever it is. It could change your perception a little bit, right? Most of the time people probably just seen, you know, the team not doing well. You see the struggle in the city and this and this and that. You just kind of lump it all together. And so they've had a chance to get on Hard Knocks and kind of change that up, and had high expectations last year. Didn't live up to it early in the season, but then they finished the season on a very high note. And then they've won on national TV the last 3 times. They beat Green Bay the last game of the season. They opened up with Kansas City and beat them. And then they came back and beat Green Bay again. And so once you start to see them play well on national TV, now you start to say, okay, man, this team they look pretty good. And so I think a lot of people are rooting for them just to finally get over the hump a little bit and have some success. So it's been good.
Yeah, it seems like this Lions team, for the first time in a long time, is a team that has pieces on both sides. You know, you go back, you know, through, you know, the years with the Lions history, and it's always been, they've been really good on defense or really good on offense, and it's never kind of linked up at the same time. I mean, I remember I've always kind of rooted for the Lions a little bit, going back to the Joey Harrington days. You know, I've kind of picked them as one of my secondary teams just because of the grit they always show and you know, the grind that they always put in. And like I said, it's always hasn't been matched up. But this year, it seems like on both sides of the ball, there's immense amount of talent, and it's kind of they're playing complementary football right now.
Yeah, they're playing really good. I think, for me, the last time I can remember us having probably a good offense and a good defense would probably be, 2014. I think we were top 5 in both. We just, we had a young Aaron, well, not young, but just a good in his prime Aaron Rodgers in our division. And
Huh,
we end up playing Green Bay the last game of the season, and basically a winner take all game for the division. And we played them in Green Bay, and they actually won that game. And so instead of us winning the division, we actually got the wild card and go to Dallas and had a controversial game down there. And so,
Megatron.
Right, that played out that way. But this team right here, they are very good offensively and defensively. They have great weapons offensively, a ton of weapons offensively, from the receivers to the tight ends to the running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs didn't play last week, dealing with a hamstring injury. Hopefully he'll be back soon. Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't play last week, dealing with an abdomen injury. And those guys still put up 42 points without two, big superstars. And, they just got, well, I wouldn't say superstars, but it's 2 big stars, right? And then, Jameson Williamson just came back last week. He only had 2 catches for 2 yards. So he didn't even get to be explosive in the game. And like I said, they still put up 42 points. They got contributions from Craig Reynolds, came in as a running back, looked good. Khalif Raymond has been showing up all year with big plays. Sam Laporta still doing his thing as a tight end. Josh Reynolds catching passes, catching touchdowns. So they got a lot of guys offensively, and I think Jared Goff spreads the ball around well because he doesn't have just that one superstar like a Megatron or like a guy that you're trying to get the ball to, 15 times like a Jamar Chase, right? He's kind of spreading the ball around to the open guys, and they're all playing their role. They're blocking them well for the running game. And so they look really good offensively. And defensively, they've been playing well too. They're getting turnovers. That's been one of the things that hurt them, just not being able to create a lot of turnovers. In the last few games, they've been getting interceptions, fumbles. Aiden Hutchinson has been playing great. Jerry Jacobs in the defensive secondary, he has 3 interceptions in the last 2 games. So he's been playing well. They lost CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was a big free agent acquisition for those guys. But Tracy Walker was a guy that they paid a couple years ago. So he's a good player, good starter for him. Kirby Joseph had, 3 or 4 interceptions last year, maybe 5. So they got some playmakers defensively. And, I think up front, though, the pressure that they've been able to cause with Aiden Hutchinson and, some of those guys on the interior line being able to stop the run and make teams one-dimensional when your team is scoring points puts a lot of pressure on you.
Right. I think when you look at it, one of the storylines, too, of this Lions team is Jared Goff and his career resurgence, right? What is it about this system, about Ben Johnson's system, that has, kind of taken Jared Goff as an afterthought, a kick-in, if you will, in that trade with the Rams, into a real playmaker and someone who's been dangerous with the ball and being able to spread it out to so many options?
Well, I mean, I think that's his personality. He seems like just a chill, laid back type of guy. And so sometimes being in the right environment, the right system is better for you. You know what I'm saying? LA is, it's a huge market, big market, like big whatever.
Right.
And sometimes, going to a smaller place like Detroit, puts a little chip on your shoulder, fits your personality, you just kind of go under the radar for a little bit, but you just continue to play well and you gain your respect that way, as opposed to just being on a team like a Rams or a New York team with the big media. And now you got the expectations of doing certain things, right? It's like, when you are a first rounder, you're expected to do certain things. When you are a 5th or 6th rounder, you're not. Like, I mean, and I know we're talking about our game, but the way Brock Purdy is playing in San Francisco, if he was the #1 overall pick, we would be saying that's probably what he's supposed to do, right?
Right.
The fact that he was the last pick is like, man, he's playing out of his mind because you didn't expect that from him, right? So that's kind of how it is. And Jared Goff has been excelling on and off the field. He's been a great leader for those guys in the locker room. I think Ben Johnson, his play style, his play call in the run game, when they can get the run game going, that takes a lot of pressure off of Jared Goff to where they can get the play action. They keep you off balance with all types of trick plays and runs and passes and screens and deep shots and stuff like that. But a lot of it is predicated based off getting the run game going and being able to play good defense.
You talk about that defense, and another guy who's having a great year, Aiden Hutchinson, is off to a fantastic start. What about him? Have you seen from last year, his rookie year, to this year, that jump that's allowed him to play just dominant? I mean, the one-handed interception in the last game against the Panthers. What have you seen from him? Watching him, covering him locally.
Well, I mean, he just been playing well. He looks like he's made the jump. He looks smarter, more mature player, looks stronger out there, more aware of what's going on, and not being a robot, but being able to play football, seeing plays and diagnosing plays and going to make plays. And so that's really what you want to see. A lot of times when they come in as a rookie, they're kind of like robots. They're doing exactly what the coach tells them to do. Stick your hand here, do this and this and that. And then once they learn how to play, now you really get to start to see their talent and their skill, because now they're just playing football. They're not thinking about the plays. They're not thinking about this TE stunt or this, this whatever,
Right.
this game I need to run. They're not really thinking about any of those things. They're just going out and actually playing. They know what they're doing. They know what they're supposed to be doing. And once you know what you're doing well enough, you can spend more time worrying about what the offense is doing to you, right? You can say, hey, you know what? I know my job well enough that I can pay attention to the running backs that are in the game. I can pay attention to this or that. When you don't know what you're doing, you kind of think, okay, what I got? Okay, I got this. All right. And then you miss like little small clues or hints that'll tell you what's going on. And so a lot of times you want to see that from the first year to the second year. And I think we're seeing that with Aiden this year.
We got a couple of rookies, though, this year who don't even seem like they're going through that process. A guy like Sam Laporta has just kind of exploded onto the scene at tight end. Obviously, you mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs, who missed last week, but he still, when he gets his opportunities, you can see why he was a first-rounder. His speed, his athleticism is next level. But another guy who fell into the second round, shockingly, Brian Branch, someone who plays the position you play. What have you seen out of these guys that have just kind of let them play out of the gate so quickly and be disruptive playmakers and forces that teams have to deal with?
Well, I mean, that's just, I feel like that's just good drafting.
Yeah.
You're just finding guys that, for one, love to play football, and for two, fit your system and what you're trying to do and having a role for them. I think Sam Laporta is a good tight end. He's agile, he's fast, he's big. He's a receiving type of guy. And, I think, Iowa has a pretty good pedigree of tight end type players. And, he fits that.
Yeah.
Brian, he played at Alabama, high level school. He's a safety, but he could play in the slot. He can play in the nickel. So that gives you added run support, having a safety up there as opposed to a corner. But he also can cover like a corner and cover tight ends for you. He can cover slot receivers for you. So him being able to play that position and man that down helps you out tremendously defensively. And like I said, him playing at Alabama, he's played against high-level competition. He's played in a high-level system. So he was able to come in and fit right in. And then Jahmyr Gibbs being another kid that played at Alabama. He was at Georgia Tech, I think, went to Alabama, but he's a high, quality guy, fast, explosive, home run hitter. And, we saw that Alabama, and you can see, flashes of it now. Hasn't been getting as many touches as I think a lot of the fans and stuff will want to see. But I feel like over the course of the season, I think he'll get what he needs. I think David Montgomery has been running the ball well, and I think they like that because it's more of a downhill run behind a big O-line that they love. And so that opens up the play action passes, and that opens up more things that they can do once Jahmyr Gibbs does get in the game. And so I don't have a problem with them not overloading him early in the season. He's only a rookie. Let him continue to learn, develop, play, get more and more acclimated to the NFL game. And hey, keep him fresh. You're gonna need him down the stretch for a playoff run, because once it gets colder outside and it start getting the weather games, you're gonna definitely have to run the ball more. So having David Montgomery, a fresh Jahmyr Gibbs, all these guys, it'll definitely come into play down the line.
You mentioned that big O line. Penny Sewell has been playing outside of his mind, but the O line in general, just talk about what they're doing both in the the run game and in the passing game to allow this line's offense to just find success both through the air and on the ground.
Well, I mean, the thing about the O line is, honestly, man, it's the most unsexiest draft pick, but
Right.
the best thing when you look back on it. I remember few years consecutively, the Dallas Cowboys were taking O linemen, and everybody was like, "Why are they taking these O linemen?" And then for a while, they had the top O line in the league, and Zeke and DeMarco Murray, and all those guys are just rushing for yards after yards after yards. And it's like, oh man, I'm glad we got this good O line. Well, you're glad you got the good O line. You just didn't like the draft picks, right? Well, it's kind of been the same thing for Detroit, right? They drafted Taylor Decker, and then they drafted Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell, and you get all these guys high in the draft, and they don't seem like sexy draft picks because everybody wants to see the running backs or the receivers or the corners, or the D lineman, right? Who's thinking about the center, right? But you have to get these guys, and you have to commit to that, and that's an identity of your team to say, hey, we're going to make sure that our O-line is legit, because if our O-line is legit, that means we can pass protect for our quarterback and give him time to throw the ball, and we can run the ball. And we want to be a team that can run the ball. We don't want to be a team that has to throw the ball 45 times a game because we can't run block, right? Because when you can't run, even though you got a good O-line, if they know you're going to pass the ball, those pass rushers are going to tee off on you, and it's going to be tough anyway. So
Bucs fans know about that.
Right. So investing in the O-line is not sexy, but a couple years down the road is exactly what you need. And I think that's what they've done. And they got some great guys on the O-line. They play hard, they play cohesively together, they understand their roles. I mean, they got some guys that they're big, and they fit exactly what Detroit wants to do. Have a big O-line and just maul you, power you, gritty, nasty, dirty. That's what they are, and that's how they play.
Yeah, they set the temperature up front, and set the tempo for everything else going. Football's one of the trenches. We know if you can't get after a quarterback, he's got all day to throw, he can pick you apart. If you can't block, then the defense can pick you apart. We know that's the thing. Speaking of temperatures, what is the temperature of this game up in Detroit? I think Bucs fans think this is a big test, right? Again, not as dominant as a team as the 49ers, the Eagles right now. You look at some of the competition they played. They've got the win against the Chiefs, but that first game of the year is always tricky. Then the overtime win against Seattle, and then lesser competition wins. Packers are still one of those. What are they? We don't know yet. They just lost to the Raiders last night. But what's the temperature on this game? Are Lions fans looking at it and saying, "Oh, this is an easy win"? Are they looking at it and saying, "Well, the Bucs have played surprisingly well. This is going to be a good test for us"? What's the talk about this game in Detroit?
Well, I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, I think the Lions we're really focused on the Lions, but we do understand that this Tampa team is 3-1. They've played good football. They've always played pretty solid defensively. And Baker Mayfield has looked, better than probably what most people expected, right? He's looked well. He's manned the offense. You still got a Mike Evans who, didn't get the contract that he wanted, but he's still going out playing, right? He's going out playing. He's putting up numbers. He's catching passes. They're coming off a bye week, so we're not expecting for this to be an easy game, right? You don't just fall to 3-1. You've won 3 games in the NFL. That's tough. And so
right.
I think for the Lions, we understand that this is a good test for us too, right? We're going on the road, playing against a good NFC team. And like you said, the Lions are probably not in the same category at this point as you would put the 49ers and those guys. But They are a good team, and I think the Bucs aren't one of those teams that you would put in the lower echelon in the NFC or the upper echelon, but they are a good team as well. And so this will be a good matchup of two good teams to kind of see who's really taking the next step and who still has some things to work on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You mentioned the bye week there, and I'm curious, as a former player, how much does that help? How much does it help to kind of get that extra week to prepare and scout for a team? And on the flip side, when you're playing a team that has that extra week, how much can that hinder your performance too? How much?
Well, when you get an extra bye week for a player, you don't get an extra week to prepare. I mean, unless you want to. But I mean, I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay last week when they went on their bye, I mean, they played on Sunday. So, and I don't know how teams do their bye weeks this year. I mean, nowadays, but you generally come in on Monday like a normal week, review the game from the last week. And depending on how your coaches are and what they want to get done that week, this being early in the season, when y'all had you guys' bye, I'm pretty sure that they probably practiced a couple days because it's still early. Maybe not the starters, but some of your backups and your practice squad guys getting some reps. So sometimes they'll give you Tuesday off, and then you come back and you practice maybe Wednesday, Thursday, and then they let you go home Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or sometimes, you may be off on Tuesday, or you may work Tuesday and go home Wednesday. But it's not like you're sitting there spending time going over the Detroit Lions. You're spending the bye week working on yourself. What are things that we've done well in these games? What are things that we need to work on or improve that we haven't done well in these games? And you spend that week kind of watching that stuff on film. That's why it's tough when you have an early bye week, because you only played 4 games, right? So the guys really aren't like tired like if it was like week 9 or 8 or something like that. But you kind of spend that time going over your own team, your own stuff, self-scouting. What are teams doing against us? How are teams hurting us? And then you go home and take a break. And yeah, you probably watch the Lions game on TV on Sunday, but probably not, because you're enjoying your break and you got to travel back, probably because you got to be there for Monday. And then Monday is kind of when you get like what we call a 1-day head start, really. You know what I'm saying? You kind of come in on Monday and kind of do an overview of the team that you're playing and what they're going to be doing. And you probably go out and practice on Monday, but you still probably haven't put in all of the game plan. You just going over some general stuff and still working on yourself. And then you come back Wednesday and now you're ready. Right. But you've already got a little introduction of the players, of the system and stuff like that. So you can really dive deeper on that Wednesday, whereas the other teams played on Sunday. So on Monday, they're going over the game. Tuesday, they're off. Wednesday, they're just now getting the introduction to who you are, and they're still sore from the game. So their practice on Wednesday may not be as strenuous.
Walk through or something.
Right. Whereas you got a head start on Monday, got a little intro to the system and their players. So on Wednesday, you're already ahead and you're fresh. So your practice Wednesday is going to be a good high-speed practice getting ready to go. But you don't get the players don't take a whole extra week to study for one team.
It's mostly coaches and stuff like that. They're looking at that way prepared for Monday, and they'll still taking their time off. I'm close with a lot of guys on the team. I know a lot of them went back. Obviously, Baker was a big one, but a lot of them went back to their schools for rivalry games and stuff like that. Some people went on little vacations and stuff. But as far as that first couple days of self-scouting, and we'll get back on track with the game preview, but I've got you here. Self-scouting, how beneficial is that, and how much did you think that like you got out of it when you got your bye week? Even if it was early, if it was late, didn't matter. Like, how much did you get out of that and how much of an improvement did you see after that?
Well, that's the good thing. That's the only good thing about having it early and being 3-1 is the fact that you can kind of scout yourself early and kind of see what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, what runs are hurting us, what passes are hurting us, because it's a copycat league. If you
Right.
get beat on a play in week 1, that next team week 2, they're going to find a way to run that same play, right? It's in their playbook some kind of way. It doesn't take much for them to design it, right? If you get beat on some runs and you have a problem stopping the downhill runs, or you having problems stopping the outside, they're going to run those same plays. So being able to figure out early what we're doing wrong, why is it happening, so that we can get it fixed, so we can prevent it going ahead, is a good thing. Because sometimes you have a bye week by week 10. Well, you may be 5-5 at that point.
You are what you are.
Right. And now it's like, well, this has been hurting us all season. Yeah, but we done already lost 4 games because of it. Whereas if you can catch it early, maybe you can stop and put out some of those fires. But I think it's always good to kind of look at yourself and see what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, kind of like how you're playing early in the season, so you can kind of correct it or, improve on it going forward.
And personally, like as a player individually, less as like a team standpoint, like what do you watch? Are you watching technique? Are you watching, I did this, like top of the, see this receiver at the top of the route, they do this. I need to be able to, like, what do you learn personally as a player?
And it's the same thing for you as a player, looking at your game, very critically, and being able to say, okay, I've been playing really well these first 4 games, and not getting caught up on the fact that I've been playing really well, but looking at why have I been playing really well? You know what I'm saying? My communication has been good. My open field tackling has been good. My route recognition has been good. All those things has been good. That's why I've been playing really well. Or vice versa. I haven't been playing good. I feel like I'm a step off out there. I just can't find my rhythm. So you're looking at it as a corner. Maybe my stance feels a little weird. My hands haven't been good. You know what? I'm not seeing his breaks coming out the break point. All these little things that you can kind of take a very good critical look at yourself to try to figure out, why am I playing good or why am I playing bad? So it's always very beneficial to be able to take some time. And most of the time when you're not playing well, you want to have that bye week. So you can take some time and figure out. When you're playing well, you don't really want that bye week. You want to keep playing, because I'm playing. I don't want a week off. Like, I want to keep going. Like, I've been balling. Right. I'm in my zone right now. Don't give me a week off. I want to keep playing. So that's just kind of how it is as a player.
Yeah, it's tough for the Bucs. They get the week 5 bye, and then 2 weeks later they play Buffalo on Thursday Night Football. So their mini bye is like 2 weeks after their full bye. So then they're just playing like 10 straight games to end the season without that bye or mini bye. It's going to be tough for them. Shifting back to the game, though, if the Bucs offense is going to be successful against this Detroit Lions defense, where should they attack? I don't want to say the weak points, but where are the areas that they need to attack to be able to move the ball efficiently?
Man, I would just say, just looking at how it's been the first few games, they're gonna have to try to make sure that they can pass protect and try to attack the lines in the secondary. Although they've caught a couple interceptions recently with Jerry Jacobs, I don't think Cam Sutton has any interceptions, and he's played solid coverage all year. But I don't think he has any interceptions, and none of the safeties. I don't think Tracy or Kirby has any interceptions. So I think you would have to try to attack the linebackers and the secondary and pass coverage. They run defense has been really solid. They've played. They're probably a top team in run defense. So I don't know if they'll be able to just come out and just run the ball on them like that. But I think if they can, run the ball, mix in some play action. They have been hurt a few times on play action, especially with tight ends and things with the linebackers, because you're trying to get up on that run game, and the linebackers the tight ends can get in behind you, or receivers and things like that. But that would be how I would probably feel like you have to attack them, because I think like I said, run defense wide has been playing well. And then if they get up on you and you get in the obvious passing situation, those guys are rushing pretty good, and it could be a long day for you. So I think they had to kind of, run the ball and try to attack play action with the linebackers and take shots with the secondary.
Yeah, you look at it, the Lions cornerbacks really in secondary as a whole really hasn't been tested all that much by a top tier receiving duo or tandem since the Seattle game, and that's the game they lost in overtime with guys like Lockett and Metcalf. Now they got Chris Godwin and hopefully a healthy Mike Evans. We'll learn more about his status throughout the week. But is that a concern that these guys aren't tested? I mean, you look at, Dubs is good. I don't think Watson was healthy when they played them. You look at last week, Adam Thielen, who they're no stranger to, but DJ Chark, those guys aren't, needle movers in that situation either. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, is that somewhere like you're looking at like these guys aren't tested that much? This is an area of concern we need to watch out for.
Right. It's definitely going to be a big challenge for him. I mean, Mike Evans is a perennial Pro Bowl guy, top big dog wide receiver that they're going to have to make sure that they understand where he's at and make sure that they are not letting him get going. And Chris Godwin is another big time player. So they have some big time weapons, and this will probably be the best receiver duo that they've seen all year. Just being honest with you. So it's going to be a huge test for him. And so that's why, you got to be able to play defense as a team. You got to be able to get a good pass rush so that Baker can't sit back there and just pick us apart. And then offensively, you got to score points as well. So it's going to be a good test. And like I said, going down to Tampa, going to be a good road test, tough environment. It's going to be hotter. So yeah, it's definitely something to be concerned about. And I'm sure that they are, talking about it and making preparations for that and coming up with a good game plan to try to slow those guys down.
Now, flip side, Bucs defense has been really good so far. They got playmakers at every level. You look on the Vita Vea, Levante David, Devin White, Antoine Winfield Jr. has been playing out of his mind. Solid corners as well. How does this Bucs defense slow down what the Lions are trying to accomplish on offense? What is their kind of, if they're going to attack somewhere, where is that going to be?
Well, like you said, you guys have, historically had a good defense, right? And the defense has been playing well. And most of the time when you have a quarterback that's not one of those guys that you consider a top 4 or 5 quarterback, most of the time they win because they manage the game well and you got a really good defense, right? I mean, the Jets are halfway alive because they got a good defense, right? And so you guys' defense has been playing well, and that allows the offense to be able to methodically pick his spots, take shots here and there, let the defense create turnovers and things like that. But I think, this Lions offense is very, 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 very explosive. But the thing that you got to do, you got to stop the run game. If you let the run game get going, it's going to be very difficult just because of the play action game and the amount of weapons that they have. And they don't mind running the ball. They will run it down your throat. And the minute that you sell out to stop that, it's like they call the play action at the perfect time. And so I think, as with most offenses or with most defenses as well, you got to go into the game feeling like we got to take away the run game. We got to take away the run game. And if you can do that, now, yes, they got weapons in the pass game, especially if Amon-Ra St. Brown is able to go. Jahmyr Gibbs is back. I don't know. It's a hamstring. So I don't really know how that's going to work out.
Soft tissue.
But if you can just get them into a passing situation, you like your chances. You like your chances because now you can just tee off and go and get after the quarterback. So it'll be very interesting to see how they try to attack the run game and the game plan that the Lions come out with to attack the Tampa defense.
You look at that Lions defense, the pressure they've been able to get on quarterbacks has been a big reason why they've won so much. Tristan Wirfs, I don't think they faced an offensive line as good as the Buccaneers have, surprisingly, but Tristan Wirfs has been an all-pro left tackle, making that move from right side. And surprisingly, one of the biggest surprises, Luke Gedeke on that right side, grading out as a top 25 tackle in the league on the right side. If they can limit that pressure from the Lions, how else can Detroit attack you other than that pressure from up front on the defensive side?
Well, I mean, that's going to be the thing. If they can limit that pressure, then, if they're not getting pressure on the quarterback, it could be a long day for them. I mean, we saw that with Seattle. You know what I'm saying? Geno Smith only got sacked one time, and it was right after before the 2-minute warning. It was just kind of like a fluke type of play.
Right.
They weren't able to get pressure on Geno Smith, and they had supposedly 2 backup tackles playing that game, and they weren't able to generate pressure. I think a little bit of it was game planning and play calling, what they were doing defensively that game. Ever since that game, they've kind of went away from what they were doing and been more attacking. But yeah, if they can't get pressure on the quarterback, it's going to be very difficult because it's going to open up more throwing lanes and have more time for the quarterback to throw the ball. And when you're throwing the ball to guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, you don't want to consistently be under that pressure of, defending those guys. So we'll have to see how they come out. I know, we've fared pretty well against Tampa in the past. But this is a good Tampa team. It's a new Tampa team. And so we'll see how it goes. It should be a really good matchup though.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I think this is like a good test for both of these teams. They've got a good offense, good defense. One thing the Buccaneers haven't been able to do is kind of put points on the board at a really good rate. They're currently averaging under 20 points a game. That's not going to cut it, I don't think, with this dynamic offense that the Lions have. I think they're going to have to. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game because I think both of these defenses can do a lot of things, kind of take things away. But I do think it's a game where I don't know if 20 points on either side is going to be enough to win this game.
Right.
But I know it's early in the week. I don't want to put you to it. You don't have to give a score prediction if you don't want to. But how are you feeling either way on this one? Obviously, you're a Lions guy, but how are you feeling? Do you think it's going to be a close game, a blowout either way? What are your thoughts on what this game's going to look like when the whistle blows on Sunday?
I think it'll definitely be a close, competitive game. Just going based off of, what I feel, it's hard to do these things because it's, how do you pick against your own team, right? Especially when they're a good team, right? It'd be hard for you guys to pick against. When they're playing, comparable team, it's hard to say, well, Tampa's going to win this game or, But I think it'd be a close, competitive game. I think it'd probably be within like a 1-score game. I'm gonna give the Lions the edge. I think they can take their show on the road. Score wise, I may change.
Yeah,
the
of
more
course.
I think about it throughout the week.
It's early enough.
But I could see it being something like 24-17, 24-21. 27-21, somewhere in that range. Three points, a field goal here, there, or, what I'm saying? Something like that. I can see that. Like I said, that's giving Tampa defense some credit. I think the Lions have scored over 20 points in 14 straight games. So I think they'll get over 20, but I don't know if they'll be able to get 35 like they've, been doing, on the road against a good defense. So I give them 24-27, and I think Tampa could score and be around 21-24 or 27-30, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm at 27-24. I don't know yet. Before the season, I had this as a loss. I think I need to just see more injury status and who's playing, who's not, before I can lean one way or the other. I do think it's going to be close. So 3 points, I think it is a good, indication. Maybe 6 points, somewhere around there. I think these two teams are evenly matched, and it's just going to come down who can play mistake-free football, who can get that pressure on the quarterback, who can establish the run game. The Lions have done it a hell of a lot better than the Bucs have been able to. But it's going to be, I think, just a hard-nosed thought. Throw it back to the NFC Central type years, when these two teams used to battle each other. I think they've had over like 60 games together. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, though. I'm glad it got moved to the national game, kind of spotlight on both of these teams. Another de facto national game for the Lions as well, who are just becoming kind of like America's darlings, and you have the Bucs as America's surprise team. So it's like, and the cream schools are back, so it's going to be a lot of fun too, for fans and for people who have been dying to see them for a few years. But yeah, close game. I think it's going to be And we'll see who wins, but I think there's going to be a lot of fun and excitement on both sides. Fun and excitement. I've had a lot of fun with you. It's been exciting to break down this team. It's been awesome having you on here. I love getting former players' perspectives too, and it's awesome to see, that jump to the media side of things. It's a different world, right, on this side,
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, man. I mean, I love talking. I love talking football. I mean,
right,
doing the media stuff, it forces me to watch it even more
right.
closely. Sometimes,
Not a bad
you just kind of like watching the games, but when you got to talk about them and be able to report on them, you got to I got to pay attention to what's going on, and then it helps you really see like, okay, well, these guys are pretty good, they're not very good, and
Right.
the last 2 games, my score predictions have been right on. I mean, I had the Lions beating Carolina 42-10, and it was 42-10, and they gave up two cheap touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and
Doesn't count.
you know what I'm saying? But it was 42-10. And then I think the week before I had them, who they play? Atlanta. I
Yeah.
think I had them 30. I think I said it would be 34-14. And it was 34-14 until they kicked that little cheap field goal at the very end and made it 34-17. So not too bad.
Post career, is it different being? Do you like look back and like, oh, these guys, did you? Because I don't know how you were. Like, some players, you go in the locker room, some players are really friendly with the media, dap them up, what's going on, they know them by name. Other people are like, oh, you all want me to talk? All right, let's talk. How are you in the locker room, and how is that like? Do you have a different appreciation now? Like, kind of.
Oh man, I was great with the media. I had so what I did was I created my own media time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so what I used to do was Wednesdays. I used to call it Soundbite Wednesdays.
Awesome.
Seriously, I used to call it Soundbite Wednesdays. And media availability when I was in Detroit. And I started doing this when I was in Houston. But I did it even more when I was in Detroit. But Wednesdays, say media availability would start, let's just say, I don't know, 12:15 or something like that.
Yeah.
And you had like 45 minutes, I think, right?
In the locker room, yep.
So I would be in the locker room 12:14, right? Whatever it is. I won't walk in until probably 12:14 because I'm going to go eat lunch because I know once I come in the locker room, it's going to be over.
Right.
But I would sit in my locker and I would talk to the media for the whole 45 minutes.
Really?
Literally.
That's awesome.
You can ask me anything, talk about anything for the whole 45 minutes. Soundbite Wednesday. I'm letting you have it. I'm going to give you good, bad, ugly, win, loss, 3 interceptions, no picks, get beat, whatever it is. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to talk to you for 45 minutes, whatever you got. Thursday, not talking. Friday, not talking. Right. Not talking, because Fridays I used to get out of there early because I had my massages every Friday when I got out of practice. So I didn't have time to talk to the media on Fridays unless I had to do like a production meeting with like a team or something like that.
Right.
But just normal media, not talking on Fridays, not talking on Thursdays. But I'm going to give you all 45 minutes on Wednesday. So, and then I'm going to talk to you after the games. That's kind of how it was. So I had no problem with the media. They understood it. They respected it. So when I came in there on Wednesdays, it'd be every person in the media would be standing around my locker waiting because they know he's going to talk for 45 minutes. And, they'll come and get their quick hitters or the ones that wanted quick hitters, and then they'll go find and talk to somebody else. And then it'd be some that'll wait for everybody to leave, and then they'll come and ask like just little smaller questions that wanted to, write stories about other things or whatever. But I'm like, hey, I'm giving y'all all 45 today. Right. I felt like that's better than giving you 10 today, 10 tomorrow, 10 Thursday. I mean, Friday, that's only 30 minutes. I'm giving you 45.
Right.
Today.
You know where to find me every Wednesday.
You just got to get it all in today. Something can't happen at practice on Thursday or in the sports world on Thursday, and now you want to talk to me about it on Friday. Nope. No response. No comment. I'm giving it to you on Wednesday, though.
If you want it, get it next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. That's great. Well, hey, Glover, thanks. I want to appreciate, thank you and appreciate the time you took today to preview this Bucs Lions matchup. Like I said, I think it's going to be a fun, close game. Both of these two teams look like they're on the up and up. You know, they've got good wins, but they've also got some questionable wins against weaker opponents. So I think this is going to be a real good test for these two. But I want to thank you again. You can find him at the Believe in Lions podcast. Check him out there. Check him out on his Twitter at what's the Twitter? I forget.
Glover Quin Jr.
At Glover Quin Jr. Find all of his stuff there. Former Pro Bowler, former All-Pro for the Detroit Lions, breaking it down here on Pirate Parlay. Thank you again so much. And, you know, maybe we'll see each other later in the season. Who knows?
I'm pretty sure we will.
All right. I'll talk to you then, man. Have a great one, and keep doing your thing.
All right, man. Thank you, guys.
There you guys have it. Another edition of the Pirate Parlay podcast presented by the Sick Podcast Network, going inside and behind enemy lines in the Detroit Lions with a former Lions player who knows the team very well in Glover Quin. So I want to thank him. I want to thank you guys for tuning in every week. Obviously, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, finding that Twitter channel and going on there, following us there, because we'll be dropping out cool snippets of each interview every week. So I want to thank you guys always for tuning in to another episode of Pirate Parlay. Follow us, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at JCAllenNFL. Make sure you're following Sports Illustrated at Bucs Game Day for all of your content leading up to game week. And with that, we're out of here. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.